Hi, I'm Tony Wood, Community Lead for CEO Collaborative Forum, and let's hear CEOs reflect. Today's guest, a very warm welcome, Sam, is Sam Guilaume, who is a serial entrepreneur with a passion for helping businesses scale up. His challenge is all the way back from 2016, so quite a few years ago, and it was about parallel entrepreneurship. So, Sam, a very warm welcome.
Hi, Tony. Thank you for having me. Very excited to participate in this. Maybe it's another challenge from COCF, and that's going to make it, I'm sure, very interesting. So very happy to be with you.
Thank you very much, and this is our very first one, so it's quite exciting.
Oh,
Sam
that's a challenge
took up the
then.
gauntlet to create the very first CEOs Reflect. So thank you again for being so brave from that point of view. So tell me about this challenge. And this is all the way back from 2016. What was the challenge, Sam?
So it was a very interesting year for me because I had sold my previous company, my first startup company, a year before, actually 2 years before. And I was really wondering about, what I will be doing. So I almost took a year off, and I've done very interesting things in the course of the last bit of 2015 and early 2016. But I was actually contemplating ideas about, how I wanted to conduct my life, personal life, professional life, and I came up with this concept of. We've been talking about serial entrepreneurship, but what about parallel entrepreneurship? And my idea was, what if I were to conduct more than more than one project at once? So I guess.
Oh my goodness, interesting. And that's the great thing. So we're going to get to hear after you presented your challenge to them. I need help with this.
Yeah, I need help with. Is there such a thing as parallel entrepreneurship? And do I fit into this concept of parallel entrepreneurship? That was essentially my challenge. During this challenge is to have use the community as a sounding board so that they could reflect on is this really what you mean, and is this really what you intend to do? Right. So again, that's the weak signals, deciphering the weak signal I was mentioning before, right?
Okay.
And I know if I knew that if one community, if some people could do this, that would be COCF for sure. Because we are like-minded individuals, we go through the
Yeah.
same thing, and I don't have well, I have other friend being CEOs, but the ability to gather a group of like-minded individuals at once and to be able to speak for close to 2 hours on your own issue, it's pretty unique, right? So I knew that I could expose this community with my challenge and get some good feedback.
So interesting. And so once you'd given your challenge and taken the questions, you then moved into observations and recommendations. So the first one was a recommendation, which was if you want to continue as you are, that is fine, as long as you have an escape plan in some areas when problems arise. So what did that mean to you?
Well, I took it first as an escape plan. Sorry, for on the professional point of view mainly, right? And this was actually reinforced by a couple more recommendations that maybe we will go through after. But um, we all know that running a company can comes with moments of tensions and high stress, and that's how I got this message, is that for sure I will be exposed time to time to a lot of stress, some issues with cash shortages, whatever, right, and raising funds or whatever it would be. And I knew that I needed to keep a little bit of my bandwidth to so that's this escape plan, right? It was actually to keep a little bit of bandwidth so that I was not overcommitted, overstressed, right? And yeah, that was mainly how I took this recommendation, right? Watch out, keep a little bit of space under the throttle so that you can actually speed up if need be. Right?
Okay, interesting. And we then moved on from Eric. Had a series of observations for you, and he said, "Look, I went through exactly the same thing. I was involved in many projects and dwindled them down to one." So that was an observation from Eric. So
So
so that's
it was good to hear that I was not the only one, right?
okay.
And that my friend Eric actually had gone through something very similar. Um, and um, and his word of caution was, well, you're going to end up with conducting one project mainly, right?
Okay.
And that was essentially his recommendation. I've been through this. At the end of the day, you're going to come down to one only, and that was actually a first feedback, right? In terms of, is that really something that I can conduct? Is that really something I can do? Is that really something that can be done, right? I know it can be done because there is numerous examples around us with individuals running, multiple companies at once.
Then we move on to some recommendations from Erno. He said, "Don't run at 100% because by definition, you will have crisis in probably more than one of these companies at the same time." So that's kind of a warning when it hits the fan in several companies at once. So
Exactly.
how did that hit home?
So that's actually the first reinforcement that I got on the very first comment that we made, right? Is that I had actually, multiple of these reinforcements. I just picked actually Erno's, but I had multiple reinforcements saying, you know what it is, right? So make sure that you don't overcommit because there will be time where we will need more of you because again it will hit the fan, right? So and as you said, it will come, issues will come, all of them together. So make sure that you keep some bandwidth, you keep enough energy to face these challenges because for sure they will come, right? For sure.
Interesting. And and then it tied into then a following recommendation from Polo. Create a satisfaction KPI or key performance indicator for each engagement and add the value creation and money as a second KPI. Interesting.
Yeah, that was interesting because although I could understand very well the words behind it, the concept of satisfaction KPI was tricky. So although I took the commitment to do it, it has been difficult for me to come up with actual KPIs. My
Right.
brain is not done like this, I guess, right? So it's difficult for me to put on a scale of 1 to 10, where am I in terms of happiness, or so in terms of whatever indicator you may take, but it was tricky for me. So I could use things like how many hours I put into this thing on a weekly basis, but that's not really what it was all about. The satisfaction KPI was what was too conceptual, I guess, for me to grasp completely. So again, I took the recommendation to work on it. It was difficult. It was difficult to put together because um, um, yeah, I think it's a hard exercise, at least for me, right?
So a lot of them were in had a common theme to them. So we,
Yes.
we now we now move from the observation recommendation into discovery or rediscovery. So what given that you had this great advice and we just picked one or two items from there, what
So
what were your discoveries or rediscoveries?
yeah, the first discovery for me is that couple of my friends actually went through this already.
Right.
Friends being at the community of COCF. So a couple of them went through this already, which went unnoticed for me because I've known them for many years, right? And they went through this. Obviously, it was not an issue to them because they didn't expose this to the rest of the community, or they've been able to manage it on their own. And it was interesting to look at them again and say, "Oh, you went through this. I've known you during that time, I never, got that feeling that it was a concern for you. So it was at the same time, it was, it was. It, I'm sharing this with you because it's a concern for me. You went through this, it was not a concern for you, so that's okay. That's interesting, first of all. And second of all, yeah, you've been through it. So now you have experience, but you're giving me back. Well, Eric's comment, for instance, I've done this, and then I know that at the end of the day, I want to run only one project, and so that's so yeah. Not being unique was. I know I'm not unique, but not being unique is a discovery. That sounds very presumptuous. That's not what I mean. What no, going through it, going through
You
it,
are unique, Sam. You know it.
but going through this, knowing that quite a few of them went through this also before, was
Right.
reassuring.
So given that you had this and you shared with the community, so the COCF community had this, and I think it's timely that it's shared, especially as people are working harder than ever right now. What advice would you give to other CEOs and leaders around this challenge or around these issues?
Well, it's we've been talking a lot about your personal professional life balance, and
Yeah.
and I think CEOs are a different breed to some extent, right? Because again, you just like to push the envelope because this is what you are asked to do. And when I advise actually CEOs today, people I don't know, usually the very first questions I ask is, how are you? How do
Mm.
you feel? Do you enjoy the ride? Is this something that you enjoy doing? If not, it's it's going to be tricky, right? And even if you do enjoy the ride, right, you have enough risks of damaging yourself, damaging your family, damaging we have countless examples of people going into divorce, or having health issues, or so it's very demanding, right? So unless you are aware of this, and you can anticipate a little bit. I'm thinking of someone I'm advising today, and he said, I can't do it anymore, right?
Okay.
And I'm trying to work with him to say, okay, so what is it that you don't like doing? What is it that really is a heavy weight on your shoulder? Is it really the
Right.
role of CEO? Or is it because you do this and this and this and you don't really care about this, right?
No, I understand that, and this can be very difficult because you can't share those weaknesses to your team, and you
No.
can't share it to your board or shareholders because they'll go, "Well, why are you doing that? You're obviously not up to the job," and they'll fire you or lose confidence in you. So finding a community where you can share in an environment where people are undergoing the same sorts of pressures, I think, goodness, could save your life. Wow, Sam.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't. I think we just have to leave it there. I can't say anything beyond that. Sam, thank you so much for your time today.
My
Thank you for
pleasure.
sharing. Thank you for being so open.
My pleasure.
And
Absolute pleasure.
and take care.
Thank you. And you too, Tony. Thank you. And thanks again for inviting me.